So you remember when I said that I wasn't going to pull the tank because I didn't want to mess with it? Well, apparently I'm not being given a choice. As noticed by the puddle of fuel on the floor that I came into this morning. It appears that something at the fuel pump here is leaking fuel. And now I get to figure out what the hell is going on, why it's happening, and how to fix it. So, yay me, I guess. Okay, so I got the plastics off, I got the bolt out, but look at this thing. This is completely fucking acceptable. Okay, this thing is all stripped to shit, and I never touched it. And I don't even know if I've got a 10mm tap I can chase this with, or a die, to make this usable again. Okay, got the tank off, and for those that are curious as to how to do that, you'll go ahead and you'll disconnect this. This is, I think, power to the fuel pump. Okay, it's got a seal. Probably couldn't hurt a little dielectric grease in there when I put it back together. Okay, then here's this connection here. I suspect this is the sending unit for the tank that shows how much fuel is in it, and then this is the high pressure connection for the fuel pump itself. You push in on this little gray thing here, and it releases the connection. And then there was another little hose connected to here that's a vent of some kind, I think, that goes into the tank. And then I'm pretty sure this is the diagnostic connection for talking to the onboard computer. This piece of rubber here and this piece of rubber here is what holds the front of the tank down. And then we've got the bolt here in the back, of course. This thing is so badly reefed, I'm going to try to chase it with a 10mm tap to see if I can't repair those threads. I'm really unhappy about that. And I'll run you over to the other side so you can see the injector assembly and the who's what's it's and the gadget and the thing and the thing that does the thing and the thing and the whatever. I have no idea what the hell half this shit I'm looking at here. The go fast cable connects to there. The breathe cable, really moron. The air intake is here, and the filter is under there. And I'm just going to stop talking at this point. I'm so hacked off about this that my brain's not even functioning right. So yeah. Okay, you guys are going to have to deal with loud audio a little bit because I'm using my my smaller camera and it does not take an external mic. So, the story so far is that I had a gas leak on the Hawk, and I found out why. If you look at this fuel pump here, you can see this bracket, or the base of it, is all broken away. Okay. Well, apparently, whoever they hired to put this in the tank cranked the screws down way too hard, and or the bolts, I mean, and it went ahead and it broke this out, and it's also cracked here. This by itself probably would not have caused the leak that I had. It's merely an aggravating factor, I think. My tank was also leaking fuel past the bolt caps. I can't show it to you, but inside the tank there's a bolt that's welded to it, and then on top of that bolt is supposed to be a fuel proof or a leak proof cap. So no gasoline wicks its way through the threads and then through the bottom. Okay, well, you combine a couple of those were leaking, plus all the flange damage here, and it really didn't have a chance in hell of staying together for long. I got 2 days of riding practice out of the bike before I came into this leaking mess on my shop floor. I've since received the replacement fuel pump. The company that I bought the bike from was very gracious. They worked very quickly, and they got this thing sent out to me very soon. They also shipped out a new tank. The interesting thing I just noticed here, okay, if you look at the bottom of that, you probably can't see it really well, but there's an embedded part number, okay? And for your reference, it says the word motion, then PW3003B, and it appears that there's a date below it, and it's 2019-05-16. So this was molded or manufactured in May of last year. There's also a new plate. That's really not contrasting against my shirt well, is it? Anyway, it's a new plate that goes over the unit like that. This one, and I've had to use black marker to highlight it a little bit, but it looks like it's got similar text, but it was laser engraved. And this one has a manufactured date of 2020-01-06. But they appear to be the same. Because I was concerned about how quickly I could get a replacement pump, I actually ordered one of these from TX Power Sports to the tune of $95. So, and of course that showed up a couple of days after my warranty replacement. I'm going to go ahead and hang on to it simply because, well, just in case, right? The old pump here, if I have any problems with the new one, I can, and as long as it's not a structural defect like what happened here, I will be able to scavenge parts and whatnot from it if I need to. In fact, I may in a later video disassemble this pump. If you guys would be interested in seeing that, let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to do it. So with that, I need to move on to the next task, which is removing the fuel level sending unit out of the old tank and putting it in the new tank. So let's get on that. So here's a scary thing I just noticed. I was going to go ahead and I was doing an inspection, and the pin for my brake arm is gone. So I need to go find a new one of those today, because you really shouldn't ride a motorcycle with only half its brakes, or 70% of its brakes, because the front does all the work. Yeah, that's kind of scary. Hi, I'm headless. Yay. So previously I said I was going to go ahead and start with the sending unit, but what I'm going to do instead of that is I'm going to change out these grommets first. There's three. There's an ear on either side here, and then there's one in the back. This is where the bolt goes. Remember me ranting about the threaded bolt? That's where it goes. So let's go ahead and get this out, and it just pulls straight out like that. The idea being here is that it's got a surface that you can't crush it. I mean, you can only tighten it so far. And that came out wrong, but you get the idea. So, oh, this is not going to be that bad at all. Thought it was going to fight me tooth and nail. So, okay, so this is what the piece of rubber looks like, or the grommet. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. And these are sized, one side's smaller than the other. So when you put them back, you want the larger face on the outside of the tank. And there's the other one. This is the other defect that I complained about with the tank. I don't know how well you can see that, but I'll try to stick a picture in there of it. It's split. It's like somebody dropped the tank on the factory floor before they installed it. So yeah. And this still has a little bit of gas left in it, but I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm going to go ahead and move this tank off camera and grab the new tank and put the grommets in the new tank. Okay, here's the new tank. Oddly enough, this one is kind of bent as well, but the metal's not split apart, so I'm just going to leave it. Wow, that was a loud car. I'm almost tempted to flatten it out a little bit, but you know, I'm going to grab a pair of pliers and just tweak that a little bit. I'll be right back. See if I can't bend this back just a little bit. Yeah, little tweak, that's all it took. It's kind of soft material, so yeah. So we'll get this one installed, like so. And we'll get the other one installed that you can't see because, well, that's life. And then this gets installed like so. And of course, the Gazenta is going to be a lot harder than the Gazeta was. I can just tell. I can just tell. Of course, you can barely see me doing this. There we go. And now we put the metal bit back in, whose official name I probably knew in one time, a long time ago, of what that kind of a thing was, but I'm just going to call it a thing that got installed. So, okay, now we're ready to transfer the sending unit. Okay, so this is the underside of the tank. This is where the fuel pump was installed. We've got the sending unit for the fuel level sensor here, and this is a vapor return tube. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to mark the front end of this sending unit to make sure that it goes back in the new tank the way it came out of the old tank. And to remove it, I'm going to need a 10mm socket, which I just happen to have. There we go. The interesting thing about this fuel sender design is that the mounting points for the tank, or for the sender itself, are, they appear to be spot welded posts in the tank itself. Instead of having to worry about sealing the bolt tops on the inside of the tank, they just welded or spot welded the bolts for the sending unit. You probably can't see that real well, but let's get that out of there as carefully as we can. Yeah, getting this thing back in there is going to be really entertaining for values of horrifyingly not entertaining at all. This is what the sender unit looks like. Okay, so we'll set this aside, and you can see the. Let's see if I can't get some better light in here for you. Let me move a light. Yeah, maybe not. Ish. But you can see the 4 posts. Oh, look at that. Okay, I see what's going on. They did not do what I thought they did. They did not spot weld threaded posts in there. What they did is put 4 small-headed bolts in there with a ring, and then they spot welded the ring to the tank. So either way, you're not going to see any fluid leak past that through the threads, because the threads don't impinge into the tank or don't go through the tank. So that's kind of interesting. So I guess the last bit I've got to remove is this tube, and this thing's going to fight me tooth and nail. What do you bet? We'll get this sad little clip here off. There we go. That pops off there like that. And then hopefully, it's probably not focusing, is it? Okay. Anyway, wow, that doesn't even clip the thing. So, okay. That's the vapor recovery tube. I'll put that back over here. And put the old tank into the old gas tank retirement home. Okay. In with the new tank. I'm going to be so annoyed if the audio for this is just trash. Okay, so let's see if we can't get the new tank centering unit in there. I'm going to go around like so. Sure, I get that gasket put back in right. And just as if it looks like I knew what the hell I was doing. Okay, so I'm going to move this around a little bit because I have got to get that gasket centered properly. Look at that, it's centered properly already. Okay, so this makes me happy. And that looks like they're just about all evenly tightened. So that takes care of that part. So next is the fuel pump itself. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and get this new fuel pump installed. And it's something I got to be careful with so I don't make the mistake the original assembler did and crack the frame. So we're going to go ahead and get the tank, or get the fuel pump here. And it just goes in there like so. Okay, but because I got ahead of myself, I almost forgot an important thing. See, there's these little metal spacers. Let's see if I can't get those in the frame. You can see these little metal spacers here. Oops. Right there. Okay. And there's an O-ring that actually sits on top of each one of those. So I have to go over here and grab my O-rings. And we gotta get these O-rings installed here. And I suspect these O-rings are here to prevent fuel from leaking past the threads, just in case the nut caps inside, or the thread, or the bolt caps inside the tank leak. Okay, so here we are. Sit right in there. Okay, now it's time to tighten, and there's actually an order on here. There's numbers stamped in this plate. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. And looking at this, I think 1 can be a little bit tighter. And there we go. I will check that out a little bit closer off camera, and I think we're good to go. The new tank is prepped and ready to go. So now I'm gonna skip on to doing some of the other things on the bike that I wanted to get handled. And I will explain that here in a second. Okay, so this is the wiring stuff that I was talking about, wanting to inspect. You're looking for things that are not rubbing or chafing any wire. That's kind of annoying. I think I'll just leave it. It doesn't really bother me that much. And this is, I believe, is the voltage regulator for the battery charging system. And this is the vapor recovery tank that I was talking about, where that tube goes onto, fits right there. This is the connection for the ECU. The next video is going to cover playing with this. Looking up here, everything looks good. There's no real obvious issues that I can see. Let's take a look on the other side. Everything seems to be routed adequately and the wires are not under any stress. Spark plug's back on. Okay. So next task is fancy electrical gadget. Okay, here we have fancy electrical gadget. This has 2 USB ports on it with a power switch and a weatherproof cap. And it's got a voltage display on the top here, and this just wires back to the battery. So let me go ahead and get that installed. Okay, so I've got my little accessory hooked up here. Wire goes around down here, through. I wire tied it here, here, and here, and then here is the connection lead. Okay, so my next task that I want to get done today is I want to recheck my valves. The bike currently has 9.9 miles on it. I want to make sure that my valve clearance has remained at what I set. And if memory serves, I set the intake to 2000s and the exhaust to 5. And I figure since I've got the gas tank off and it's so easy to reach now, I'm going to go ahead and check that while I can, or while it's easy to do, and you guys can see that whole process. Oops, that's set to tighten, and I probably don't need this extension. There we go. Okay, there's one loose. And I've got to go to the other side because it's got 3 instead of 4, which is kind of curious, but it seems to work for it, so. Okay, so I'm gonna transfer over to the other side. And I promise I will put the spark plug back on this time, because that's how I forgot it last time. Just for reference, all 3 of those bolts are the same length. Okay, so let's get this off of here. Come on. There we go. It comes off so easy. You don't have to bounce around the tank or nothing. It's just awesome. Okay, so there is the top end of the engine. So now I have to wheel my sad little chair over to the other side of the bike, and I've got an inspection port that I have to open up, and I need access to the engine to turn it a little bit, and then we can check. So I will be right back. I have moved the engine to top dead center, and I've got the valves in the position where they need to be in order to check them. So now I'm going to get my fancy feeler gauges out here and grab my 2000 or 2000ths gauge, and we're going to check the intake side. That looks really good for that one. So now we'll go ahead and check the exhaust and make sure that that's behaving. Yeah, and it's behaving properly as well. So that's good news. It means I properly tightened it and it hasn't moved since I went ahead and did it the first time when I was assembling the engine. So that makes me a happy man. Okay, so I am going to put this thing back together, and we're going to move on to the next thing. Okay, here's one of the other things I needed to do. My original battery had leaked and blown acid all over the bike, or this area. All this white powder you see is a mixture of baking soda and water I sprayed the bike down with on this side. As you can see, it's kind of causing some rust issues. The acid anyway. So at any rate, I asked on the Hawk 250 group, and a gentleman named Colin recommended this battery, and it was Amazon Prime next day. Yay! And it got it installed, or almost installed. I needed to create a pad because the battery is not as wide as the original, and this is just a piece of 1-inch thick styrofoam with a couple of pieces of VHB double stick tape stuck to the side of the battery, and it works great. And now I've got to bolt it back to the, or do my wiring connections up and connect that pigtail for my little USB accessory thing, and then I can move on to this piece right here, which is drilling out and retapping that for a replacement helicoil that will fix those horribly abused threads. So we'll do that next. Okay, now the task I have is to drill out this bolt right here, because, well, let me show you. This poor thing got put in by a gorilla, I think. You look at that. That is just an absolute mess of a bolt. It took quite a bit to get that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace it with helicoil. And for those that are not familiar with that, the helicoil is basically a threaded insert, and it's almost like, looks like a spring, okay? And I will show you right here. It's really kind of difficult to see. I don't know why the bike is focusing, or the bike is focusing. Yeah, it's going to be a long day. Anyway, this is what the helicoil looks like, okay? And it's got this little tang in at the bottom here that gets snapped off, and it holds the helicoil in place once it's installed. So the first thing I have to do is drill that out. And if I remember, I will put a static picture of that helicoil in this video so you guys can see what it looks like. Okay, so here we go. And that is all the bad threads gone. So, now that that's done, we need to take our tap, and in this case, this is an 8mm by 1.25 tap, and we've got to carefully tap that hole. That being said, I don't have a tap wrench. I have to grab my tap wrench, so I'll be right back. And this is what a tap wrench looks like. So we just put that in there like so. Start turning carefully. Should have used some cutting fluid with this, but I don't have any. You put it in a little bit at a time, you back it off, you let the chips clear out of the tap, and then you go after it again. And you don't want to drop this tap or run them too hard, because if you do, you'll break the tap. And I'm going to go get some 3-in-1 oil. I'm not going to be using any cutting oil, which is kind of sad, but it is what it is, I guess. And there we are all the way through. Okay, so blow that out. And okay, now we've got to put the helicoil back in. And there's a tool for it. The split here grabs that tang on the bottom, just like so, so you can properly thread or easily thread the helicoil into our new hole. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's not cross thread the helicoil. It's not one. There we go. We want to run it in just below the original thread. And that looks to be about that point right there. We have another tool that we use to pop that tang off the bottom of the helicoil. And that looks like that. So we just go in and whack it. And that didn't do anything except stretch the helicoil. Probably because we are not going into a a bottomed hole, we're going into a bolt that's welded. So that being said, I'll go ahead and just kind of leave it in that haphazard condition. The coil is not going to back out. So let's try our new bolt. And the new bolt fits well. So I am happy with that. Okay, so there we go. Now it's time to put the tank back on. Which, by the way, I filled with fuel last night and left it sitting on the bike, and there was no leaks. So I'm very happy about that. Okay, moving on. Okay, now it's time we get this tank put back on. Okay, there's two rubber pieces here, and these key into the tank. The tank's got little ears on it. And so let's get that handled. And I've also got to connect the special little tubing that goes into the vapor recovery system. So let's get that done. And okay, so come on. Unfortunately, you can't see what I'm working on here because, well, I only have one camera, or two cameras actually, but only one's really suitable for this. Okay, back up on the ears. You want to make sure that you're not pinching any wiring when you put this back. And there we go. Now, where is my lead for the... There it is. It's the lead for the sending unit, which is right here. Come back just a little bit. So we've got our hole here. Put this back in. Oops. And I'm just putting that in there so it kind of mushes that grommet a little bit on the top. Tank there. I suspect the reason for the large rubber grommet on the back and the two front grommets, or the two front pads, is to prevent vibration from getting into the fuel tank and making the fuel foam. And that's pure speculation on my part. Okay, so I now have myself a full tank of gas, and all of the side plastics are on. The tank fits a little bit different, and I can't get the peg on that side plastic to fit in the grommet, but I'm really not going to worry about it. One thing I am curious about is that I'm just sitting here. That battery reads 13.2 volts. Let's see what we get with the bike running. Oh wow, 15 volts at idle. Whoops. Not bad. That tells me that the charging circuit is doing a very good job. So Yay. By the way, I have it on good authority that this key tag adds 5 whole horsepower just by being on the bike. So you might want to get one.